go down, oh, and well, 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 don't you rise no more, don't you rise no more, won't you go down, oh,
Hi there, and welcome to Storylines with Jimmy Trash. Storylines will be my more spontaneous and less scripted baby version of Songlines, my in-depth and highly researched podcasts on YouTube for Parea Radio. I am DJ, musician, filmmaker, journalist, and mental health worker, Jimmy Trash. And today's story is going to be re-examining old songs and how you felt about them, and what happens when you don't feel the same way. Now, 20 years ago, exactly 20 years ago, I was about to move from Australia to Berlin. And one of my favorite bands of that time, a band that had a lot of meaning to me, was Jackie O Motherfucker. And they interested me because they were an American band that was mixing two types of music that I was holding very important and sacred to me at the time. That being pre-war American folk and blues and analog noise. It's actually who we're listening to in the background now. So I'm gonna crank it up a little bit and we can have a listen to them just to get this episode started. incredible chance. The room that I moved into when I first got to Berlin was actually a member of the band. So he was a friend of friends, and they knew that he was leaving back to Utah for a while. And I moved into this slightly older than me, more established artist and musician's room with other people in the flat. And it was a great education because his books and his records were really the things that I couldn't get in Australia and things that I was wanting to learn about. You know, in Australia, at least 20 years ago, it was kind of hard to get the things that you wanted to learn about culturally. And between all the really great books and really great records that I listened to while I was in the house of a guy whose band I loved, there was an Parea record, and I hadn't heard Parea. I remember I'd been into like John Cage and Eric Satie and things like this in Australia, but Parea was somehow the next level on that I hadn't reached yet. I was still quite young. And it was maybe the most famous and most well-known record of Parea from 1977, Tabula Rasa. And Tabula Rasa also was the record that made Parea really well-known in Europe and in America. Kind of put his blueprint down on the minimalist composer canon of the time. And I listened to this record many, many times. Really let it wash over me. It was really full of new thoughts, you know, of how music could be, how composition could be. I think at that time I really fancied myself as a composer as well. And also because of the circles I was in, I was playing with kind of new music people in that first year in Berlin. I didn't expect to come to Berlin and kind of be involved with art music, but it's what found me when I was there. And listening to Parea really helped me to understand. Anyway, now I've just moved to Athens. And almost on my first weeks on the street that I arrived here a few months ago, I saw posters and also online advertising for the Estonian Philharmonic Choir, or orchestra rather, playing pieces by Parea in the Odeon of Herodotus Atticus. And if you don't know what that is, it's an incredible theater, kind of attached to the Acropolis. It's just an arm's reach from the Acropolis in Athens. In a similar building age, I guess. Wikipedia tells me it was finished in AD 161. So incredibly ancient. And I went there with my friend Magda, who flew over from Poland, because she also is an Parea fan. And we were so excited, waiting for the theater to open. And as we flooded in with all the other people, it was the most beautiful experience. If you can imagine walking into a Greek theater that's over 2,000 years old. And it had been restored, so all of the round seats were still complete, but the arches behind it, some had been destroyed. But that even gave it more of a magical feeling. And so even before we started to hear the beautiful minimalist work of Parea, just being there already kind of filled you with a sense of wonder. And slowly everyone kind of settled in, and the musicians came out first, I think in a quartet for the first piece. And there was a translation TV, like a translation screen behind them. And I think maybe the first piece they played was instrumental and very beautiful. But then by the second piece, they had singers come out. And because I'd only ever listened to Tabula Rasa, I was immediately shocked by missing what is actually an inherent part of Avo Per himself, which is how extremely liturgical the lyrics were that the choir was singing. And this didn't stop for the rest of the show. The pieces were extremely religious. Most of them were hymns. And because the hymns were attributed at the end, you could see, okay, Avo Per was into, in the same way that I might be into rare records, he was into rare liturgies by various mystics or poets or writers of the Catholic tradition. And it was really confronting. I think before we go on, I'm going to play the piece that really touched me, actually the one that let me feel the religious nature, and it's because it was a bit more of a parable. So here is a bit of the Agathon, which I also notice is sometimes translated to English as Adam's Lament. And it's a piece where the devil in disguise as a leper constantly hounds an abbot as the abbot is trying to sell wares in a market.
Through
Now, as a philosophy student, I had always, without any further reading, I had associated this one Tabula Rasa album with the John Locke idea that humans start as empty vessels, and it's perception that brings in the content of a character to a person. So in my head, Avopad had really maybe more meant this very abstract, not abstract thinking, of course, this idea is not abstract, but inward thinking, and I had zero concept about this inherent part of his character, that he even stopped being a composer for many years to continue to chase his own religious teaching and being very close to the church. So this inherent part of his character came out as we were looking at the words behind the screen to all of these pieces. And I felt being challenged because, of course, I think depending on your background, you will have a knee-jerk reaction to Christianity one way or the other. And especially here in Orthodox Greece, you get it a lot. And also the nature seemed very different of the words. It was not an Orthodox, it was very much a Catholic presentation with the lyrics. And I realized like my biases, especially towards Catholicism, really came out in something that I had previously loved, but also been naive. And I had to swallow it while I was there in this beautiful theater, giant open-air Odeon that's over 2,000 years old, trying to work my way to just let very, very religious content wash over me. And it was a long enough concert to go through the feeling of understanding that of course he sounds like he does, like it is a very clerical, especially it is a very Byzantine modes in his work. So as I'm older, 20 years older, I can hear that in the work that I couldn't maybe 20 years ago. And most of my enjoyment of this composer was from 20 years ago. So it felt like fighting and having to process and update my understanding of this composer right there at a concert. And he was not there, but he is still alive. He's not ancient history. He's probably almost 100 years old by now. But yeah, it was the reflection after was having to realize, of course, his passion and his religion is why he was able to compose like that, as many other people who have done great work was. I just never attributed it to him in the same way. So it was a beautiful experience. And sometimes I just close my eyes to not look at the words, to focus on the music. And also, once the sun went down in this ancient amphitheater, it did have a very religious feeling being in this space as well. So it was maybe a warm-up for examining your biases and also reflecting on art that you did not understand and loved naively, and that also probably a good lesson that you can always go back to art and re-examine it again. I've been never one to reread books many years later, but probably it's a very good way to reflect on your own capacity. Anyway, this was kind of a warm-up, so maybe this was in my mind. I'm not sure. Also, as a side note, when I was looking up the beautiful amphitheater, and the Miss Universe pageant of 1973 was held there, which was the last year of the military junta in Greece. And the images of modernity meeting ancient structures of these scantily clad 70s bikini women in the space are really, I don't know, the kind of material that AI wishes it could produce. And yeah, when you think of the military junta aligned itself with American values, so it made a lot of sense that they would kind of see an ancient amphitheater as a place to have a Miss Universe competition. They were very pro-American, aligned in their values. You know, they came out of trying to crush a left-wing government in the 60s. And yeah, if you are listening, looking up the Miss Universe 1973, it's really worth it. So, kind of, I don't know if this sparked it, but some weeks later, I was having a daydream. I was just kind of sitting and reflecting on myself. And again, I started to think of another song I loved from my youth. And maybe you are someone who also had a youthful moment with punk. Maybe you're still a punk if you're listening to this. But I definitely, in my mid-teens, adored 77 era punk. And for some reason, the song Alternative Ulster by Stiff Little Fingers came into my head. And recently, I thought this would be not such a political podcast on the Storylines version, but it's going to be. I never really read or gave much of my energy to learning about the period that they call the Troubles in Ireland. And even previous to that, the kind of the civil war that happened from the Protestants that came into the north, that England deliberately put people from the north of England and from Scotland in, I believe, to, I think, a mining project in the north of Ireland, but kind of on the premise that there were people that needed to be put somewhere, but definitely to inject power and inject influence into Northern Ireland. Hundreds of years ago, many hundreds. But I'd never spent much time to learn about this, and probably my biggest understanding has come from listening to the Irish Blind Boy podcaster. But kind of my brain was going along this and thinking of this Northern Irish band, Stiff Little Fingers. And they had an anthem that was a big hit for them, I think in 1978 or 79, called Alternative Ulster. And back when I was young, I would sing the lyrics with no idea about what they meant. And to be honest, even now I had to look them up again to kind of understand, because there are a lot of local references in this song. But I went through the lyrics and was comparing it to what I thought it was, which was an extreme anti-monarchy song. But I thought, okay, now I'm a bit wiser and I know a bit more about the IRA, and it's mainly through the IRA and the Irish Catholics' relationship with Palestine, and the fact that the English were a common enemy between both groups, and were, they had the same oppressor. And this is how it was explained by Blind Boy in his podcast. And my brain started to replay the lyrics from the Stiff Little Fingers song, Alternative Ulster, Ulster being one of the main cities of the conflict in the north of Ireland. And I thought, what really made that song such a rebellious song? Because in its youthful buzz-saw guitars, it sounded like it really was an anti-song. And I went back to the lyrics and I listened to it again. And I'm going to play the song first. I think it's a sensible thing to do since this is a radio show and one should play songs on radio. Okay, I'm going to play Stiff Little Fingers, Alternative Ulster.
true, you know. They say they got control of you, and that's a lie, you know. They say you will never be free, free, free. I'll tell you won't stop. 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 Go again now.
Ah, yes, it's still got a lot of bite and brings back a lot of memories of either getting hyped up to play basketball or probably jerking off. So I loved that song when I was 15, but as we are talking about it and analyzing the lyrics again, as my brain had asked me to, as this song came in, the opening lines are about missing clubs or places to go out in Belfast. And then they accuse some nebulous they of just wanting money or just wanting power. They claim to be an or ask for an anti-security force. Now, when I was younger, I would hear this line, alter your native land, alter your native Ulster. And I thought it was a very passionate pro-Irish song. And then they do talk about, you've got the army on the street, and the RUC, dog of repression, is barking at your feet. The RUC was the pro-British Union Irish of the North, the Protestants, and representing this group that we talked about that was kind of placed in Ireland maybe 150 or 200 years before that. But it's such a nebulous language. And then what really made me rethink this song was the final line, where they say, and they say they're a part of you. And that's not true, you know. They say they've got control of you, and that's a lie, you know. And I think this nebulous they that they keep using on this final one is probably about the IRA. I think it's the IRA's rhetoric who say they're a part of you, because it was a lot more of a indigenous feeling to their rhetoric at the time. And yeah, I loved 77 punk as a kid, but I think revisiting it now, after years of seeing how liberal media has been dealing with the resistance in Palestine, now seeing a view like this that is maybe, I don't even think that they were anarchic punks, but to me a song like this now is so liberal coded. It's really both siding this conflict that was between a colonizer and a colonized people. And I think when I look back at all the punk from England, from the UK at this time, and the anarchic philosophy that came out, led by Malcolm McLaren and the Sex Pistols, it's really a do-nothing cause. And in England, they were in the base of the empire. But for people in Ireland at this time, they were the colonized people. And these boys in Stiff Little Fingers were from the north, so potentially they were of this English, Scottish, Protestant background, and this was them being as rebellious as they could in those circumstances and from the families they're from. But it reminds me literally of liberal Zionism, And I didn't think I'd get so political in this version of the podcast, but here we are. It's not giving, and why I can contrast it with other music from Ireland from the same time, where you really will see the power of folk music that is coming out of this time, backing the IRA, backing the Republicans. And so I'm going to play probably the most notorious resistance song of the time, even though I could have chosen many. But we will play the nefarious, the infamous "Come Out, Ye Black and Tans," as this song is such a dense and well-written, in the tradition of Irish poetry. There's no sentence that's lacking at all. It's an incredible song. So this was recorded, I think, in 1972, although it was written in the early 60s. This potentially is like the first solid version of this. It is "Come Out Ye Black and Tans" by the Wolf Tones.
I was born on the Dublin street where the Lyle drums the beat, and those loving English feet, they walked all over us. And every single night, when me dad would come home tight, he'd invite the neighbours out with his chorus. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lanes of Killishandra. Come, let us hear you tell how you slandered great Parnell when you thought him well and truly persecuted. Where are the sneers and jeers that you loudly let us hear when our leaders of 16 were executed? Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lanes of Killishandra. Come tell us how you slew them old Arabs 2 by 2. Like the Zulus, they had spears and bow and arrows. How bravely you faced one with your 16-pounder gun, and you frightened them damn natives to the marrow. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lanes of Killishandra. Now the time is coming fast, and I think them days are here when each English Johnny and he'll run before us. And if there'll be a need, then our kids will say Godspeed with the verse or two of singing this fine chorus. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lanes of Killishandra.
Yeah, incredible. And so compare the nebulous kind of non-direct language of the punk song about this very same time. Well, actually, this song was written in the early 60s, and it was referencing the original author's father, who would come home in the 1920s and 1930s and have a kind of coming home drunk ritual of starting to abuse his English, pro-British neighbors, which is already hysterical. Written by, let me just check, Dominic Behan. And yeah, even though it is still satire and funny, it's hitting home and so much more moral clarity than the Stiff Little Fingers song. The father figure of the song comes and says, "Come out, you black and tans, come and fight me like a man. Show your wife how you won medals down in Flanders. Tell her how the IRA made you run like hell away from the green and lovely lanes of Killashandra," which was evidently a place down in the south of Ireland where the British forces and the RUC that we talked about did not penetrate. But yeah, just the class consciousness of the song. There's one verse where he accuses the English soldiers that they had been in Palestine and the Anglo-Zulu War in South Africa, and basically just had a lot more firepower and were doing massacres. And it's such a clear cut moral equivalency. And yeah, just for me, kind of feeling that folk music has had so much more bite, on it. And this Stiff Little Fingers song refuses to address. And it's true that the Stiff Little Fingers were young kids when they did it. And but I believe also the author of this was young. So the kind of takeaway here, first of all, Jackie O Motherfucker, I didn't really hear about them again. I heard that the lead singer busted a deal because he was a heroin addict, and that when the band did finally get some money for a record, he lost it all, mysteriously. I don't know if this is true. This is heresy, but that's the kind of bow on that story. As far as Arvo Pärt goes, there's a way to look back and see how much you've grown when you listen or read or watch things that you know that you loved. I think it's a good mirror to see how you've grown in your taste and challenge your old version of yourself. When it comes to the Stiff Little Fingers, I think it's very healthy to grow out of things. It would be funny to make a list of what you still love from your teenage years and see how much still holds up the old artistic litmus test. And finally, on Come Out, Ye Black and Tans, the takeaway is folk music will always be more revolutionary than punk music. This has been the first episode of Storylines with Jimmy Trash on Parea Radio. Please, if you want a more well-researched and well-edited copy from me, go and check out Storylines with Jimmy Trash on YouTube. And thanks for listening to my first show. So, as I send you all off, I'm going to play maybe another IRA-themed folk song. We're going to hear from 1974, the Barleycorn and the Boys of the Old Brigade. And funnily, as I kind of was cobbling this loose script together, Al Jazeera had an IRA documentary on. And I saw that at some point Thatcher denied that the head of the IRA in the middle of all of this war was ever allowed to be on the BBC. So they started to hire actors to badly dub just to make the IRA seem stupider, which is just phenomenal. That actually is really, really funny. Anyway, be well, everyone. Fight on the good side.
Oh, Father, why are you so sad on this bright Easter morn? When Irishmen are proud and glad of the land where they were were born. Some I see in memory's view, a far-off distant day, when being just a boy like you, I joined the IRA. Where are the lads that stood with me when history was made? Oh, Ramacree, I long to see the boys of the old brigade. From hills and farms, the call to arms was heard by one and all, and from the glen came brave young men to answer Ireland's call. 'Twas long ago we faced the foe, the old brigade and me, but by my side they fought and died, that Ireland might be free. Where are the lads who stood with me when history was made? Oh, Ramacree, I long to see the boys of the old brigade. And now, my boy, I've told you why on Easter morn I sigh, when I recall my comrades all from dark old days gone by. I think of glens with rifle and grenade. May heaven keep the men who sleep from the ranks of the old brigade. Where are the lads who stood with me when history was made? Oh, Ramacree, I long to see the boys of the old brigade. Where are the lads who stood with me when history was made? Oh, Ramacree, I long to see the boys of the old brigade.